Alright, settle in, because we're about to dive deep into a legend that's frankly bananas. We're talking about a creature born from a stone, who mastered 72 incredible ways to cheat death, and then, just for kicks, decided to pick a fight with pretty much every god in the sky. Can you even imagine? This isn't just some ancient myth. It's the ultimate underdog story, a cosmic roller coaster that takes you from rock bottom to the highest heavens and back again. The very same monkey who once gleefully uprooted the celestial bureaucracy raining chaos down on heaven would one day find himself on a sacred pilgrimage, carrying precious scrolls on foot, trudging through dust and hardship, all to earn the revered title of Buddha. Yeah, you heard that right. Buddha. It's a journey of epic proportions, filled with magic, mischief, and a whole lot of growing up. So, stick around. This is the whole wild ride, from rebellious primate to enlightened sage, all in one sitting. Our tale begins not in some grand palace or bustling city, but on the tranquil, mist-shrouded shores of the eastern sea. There, a magnificent island-top mountain, known as Flower Fruit Mountain, pierced the clouds. It wasn't just any mountain. It was a place of primordial energy, where the very essence of heaven and earth converged. And at its very summit, bathed in moonlight and warmed by the sun, sat something truly extraordinary, a colossal stone egg. Imagine it, 8 feet 9 inches tall, pulsating with an ancient, almost imperceptible breath, attuned to the rhythm of the seasons. It had been there for eons, absorbing cosmic energy, waiting for its moment. Then, one particularly blustery morning, with the winds howling a prehistoric lullaby, a crack appeared. Not a small fissure, but a dramatic, resounding split that echoed across the mountain peaks. Out of this ancient stone, with a burst of light and an undeniable spark of life, leapt a creature unlike any other. Bronze-eyed, bristling with untamed energy, an impish grin already forming on its face. It immediately bowed to the 4 cardinal directions, a natural reverence for the world it had just entered, and in response, every wild monkey on Flower Fruit Mountain erupted in joyous, almost instinctual applause. This wasn't just a birth. It was an event. No mother, no father, no conventional origin story here. Just pure, unadulterated cosmic luck, bundled up in furry form, dropped right into the heart of the jungle. The little guy, brimming with boundless curiosity and an insatiable appetite for adventure, quickly realized that the jungle wasn't just about ripe fruit and warm sun. It was a place where strength commanded respect and novelty sparked fascination. He saw a magnificent waterfall, a roaring curtain of water that plummeted into a hidden abyss, a place no other monkey dared to approach, let alone enter. But our bronze-eyed imp? He saw a challenge. With a mischievous glint in his eye and a surge of primal courage, he took a deep breath and plunged headfirst through the thundering cascade. What he discovered on the other side was a hidden grotto, a veritable paradise untouched by the outside world. It was a secret sanctuary, a natural palace. Bursting with excitement, he raced back out, soaking wet but triumphant, yelling at the top of his lungs, "Whoever jumps through there earns kinghood." It was a simple, audacious challenge, and the other monkeys, initially hesitant, watched as he demonstrated his bravery again and again. Splash, he's in. Splash, he's out, proving the way was safe. And just like that, with a crown fashioned from twigs and vines, he became their instant royalty. They nicknamed him the Handsome Monkey King, a title he wore with immense pride. For a few glorious years, life truly was bananas, literally. The jungle provided an endless bounty of ripe, succulent fruits. The sun was always warm, the days filled with playful antics, and his loyal troops adored him. He ruled with a joyful, if somewhat chaotic hand. But then, one melancholic dusk, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, he witnessed something that pierced his carefree existence. An old macaque, one of his oldest and wisest subjects, simply closed its eyes forever, its breath fading into the twilight. Mortality. It was a concept he hadn't truly grasped, a cold, hard truth that punched him squarely in the chest. Kingship, all his power and joy, suddenly felt infinitesimally tiny, insignificant next to the relentless ticking clock of death. This wasn't just an old monkey dying. It was a stark reminder that even he, the handsome Monkey King, was not immune. That very night, under the vast, star-studded sky, a profound realization settled upon him. He gathered his subjects, his usual boisterous energy replaced by a solemn determination. "Find my boat," he declared, his voice firm. "I sail at dawn. I'm going to learn how not to die." His quest for immortality had begun, driven by an existential dread that would forever alter his path. So, at the first blush of dawn, the handsome Monkey King, now armed with a singular, unshakable purpose, set sail from Flower Fruit Mountain. He wasn't just seeking knowledge. He was chasing an answer to the most fundamental question: how to escape the clutches of mortality. His journey across the vast, rolling expanse of the Eastern Sea was long and solitary. He floated for days, weeks even, his makeshift raft buffeted by waves, his keen eyes scanning the distant horizons. He poked through small, humble fishing villages, observing human life, learning their customs, but finding no wisdom that could grant him eternal life. His search led him further inland, away from the familiar ocean, and eventually he hiked into the misty, ethereal mountains, a place rumored to harbor ancient secrets and reclusive sages. After years of wandering, his persistence finally paid off. Deep within the mountains, he stumbled upon a secluded monastery, a place of quiet contemplation where a revered sage named Subhuti resided. Subhuti was a master of Taoist and Buddhist teachings, possessing wisdom that transcended mortal understanding. The master took one look at the restless, bright-eyed monkey, sensing the immense potential and perhaps the boundless mischief contained within him. "You need a name, pupil," Subhuti said, his voice calm and resonant. "Let's call you Sun Wukong." The monkey awakened to emptiness. It was a name steeped in profound meaning, hinting at the spiritual journey Wukong was about to embark upon, even if he didn't fully grasp it at the time. And so, Wukong's training began, rigorous and relentless, starting before the first rays of sunrise kissed the mountain peaks. It wasn't just about physical prowess. It was a holistic transformation. He delved into deep meditation, learning to quiet his naturally boisterous mind, to focus his boundless energy. He practiced ancient breathing techniques, harmonizing his inner and outer worlds. He even attempted calligraphy, an exercise in patience and precision that must have been incredibly challenging for such an impulsive creature. But alongside these spiritual disciplines, Subhuti also taught him incredible physical and magical skills, breathtaking acrobatics that defied gravity, and most importantly, the secrets of divine magic. Within a mere 7 years, a blink of an eye in the grand scheme of his eternal quest, Wukong had become a prodigy. He could somersault 36,000 miles on a single cloud, a feat of speed and agility that made him virtually untraceable. Imagine one leap and he could cross continents, traverse oceans, almost touch the moon. But that was just the beginning. He mastered the legendary 72 transformations, a magical ability that allowed him to change into any animal, any object, even a tiny insect or a towering temple. This wasn't just a party trick. It was a fundamental skill for espionage, escape, and combat. Why 72, you ask? Because, as he'd soon discover, 71 just isn't quite enough when the entire celestial bureaucracy might one day be hunting you down. And if that wasn't enough, he could pull hairs from his chest, blow on them, and watch as they transformed into perfect clones of himself, each capable of fighting, thinking, and acting independently. Talk about having an army at your fingertips. Subhuti, recognizing Wukong's insatiable desire for immortality, also slipped him another profound secret: the method for eternal youth. It wasn't a potion or a magical fruit, but something far more esoteric: memorizing ancient poems that held the power to fold space and time, to transcend the natural cycles of life and death. This was the true key to becoming immortal, a mastery over the fundamental laws of the universe. Wukong, now overflowing with power and perhaps a growing sense of invincibility, felt ready to conquer anything. But one full moon night, as the silver light bathed the monastery, Master Subhuti called him aside. His voice, usually calm, held a rare sternness. "Wukong," he warned, his eyes piercing, "you have learned much, but remember this. Never, under any circumstance, tell anyone you studied under me. If you do, I will know, and I will flay you alive." It was a chilling threat, a clear indication of the immense power Subhuti wielded, and a reminder that even limitless power comes with responsibilities and hidden dangers. Wukong, for once, was truly humbled. He nodded, a shiver running down his spine. Then, with a respectful bow, somersaulted away on his cloud, disappearing into the night. He landed back at Flower Fruit Mountain, brimming with newfound powers, ready to flex his extraordinary abilities, but also carrying the weight of his master's cryptic warning. Back on Flower Fruit Mountain, Wukong was no longer just a handsome monkey king. He was a force of nature, crackling with untold power. But even a king, especially one who could leap 36,000 miles in a single bound, needed some serious gear. His twig crown and playful demeanor felt utterly inadequate for the level mischief he was clearly destined for. Word had reached him, through the whispers of the wind and the gossip of river spirits, that the East Sea Dragon King, Guanyin, was a notorious hoarder. His underwater palace, a shimmering edifice of coral and pearl, was rumored to contain treasures beyond imagination, artifacts of immense power. So, with the casual arrogance only a newly immortal, supremely powerful monkey could possess, Wukong strolled right into the Dragon King's crystal palace. He didn't knock. He just arrived, dripping seawater and radiating an aura of self-importance. The Dragon King, a venerable but somewhat timid ruler of the oceanic depths, was utterly flustered. Here was this brazen monkey, demanding a weapon worthy of his great sage equal to heaven, a title Wukong was already mentally bestowing upon himself. Gong, hoping to appease this disruptive visitor and send him on his way, offered Wukong a series of impressive, yet ultimately insufficient weapons. First, gleaming copper spears, then magnificent silver halberds, each capable of felling a lesser demon. Wukong merely waved them away with a dismissive flick of his wrist. Too light, he'd scoff, or doesn't feel right. He was looking for something truly extraordinary, something that resonated with his own untamed power. Finally, in desperation, the Dragon King's wife, a far wiser and more pragmatic creature than her husband, whispered a suggestion into his ear. "Show him that iron pillar," she urged. "The one we use to measure the ocean's depth. Maybe that will satisfy him." Guang, with a sigh of resignation, led Wukong to a massive, dull iron rod, sitting innocuously in a corner. This wasn't just any pillar. It was the Ruyi Jingu Bang, a divine artifact, a relic from the time of the Great Yu, used to control the primordial floods. It weighed a staggering 13,500 pounds, an impossible weight for any mortal. Yet, it possessed incredible magic. It could shrink to the size of a sewing needle, small enough to be tucked behind an ear, or stretch past the clouds, reaching to the very heavens. And most miraculously, it answered to its true master's will. Its name, Ruyi Jingu Bang, literally translated to "as you wish golden-bound cudgel." Wukong, a flicker of recognition in his bronze eyes, approached the inert pillar. He patted it, testing its immense density. Then, with a playful grin, he simply said, shrink, and to the utter astonishment of the Dragon King and his entire court, the colossal pillar began to shimmer, to compress, to shrink down until it was a manageable, yet still incredibly heavy, staff. He then, with a flourish, tucked it casually behind his ear, where it remained, a tiny golden needle. "Thank you for your generosity, old dragon," Wukong said, his voice dripping with mock sincerity, leaving the stunned host gaping like a fish out of water. But Wukong wasn't quite done. For good measure, and perhaps just because he could, he raided the Dragon King's wine cellar, helping himself to the finest celestial brews before making his grand exit. Back on land, fueled by divine wine and buzzing with new power, Wukong couldn't wait to test his new toy. He pulled the Ruyi Jingu Bang from behind his ear, whispered, "Grow," and watched as it extended into a mighty staff, shimmering with golden light. With one casual swing, a mere playful flick of his wrist, he flattened an entire hill, sending rocks and trees flying. The monkeys of Flower Fruit Mountain cheered, their adoration for their king reaching new heights. But far above, in the serene, ordered halls of heaven, this audacious display of power did not go unnoticed. The celestial bureaucrats, meticulously recording every ripple in the cosmic order, already had a file stamped with a very ominous label, code red. Wukong's arrival on the celestial radar was now official, and his legend, for better or worse, was truly forged. Heaven's initial response to this unruly monkey wasn't outright war. It was surprisingly polite paperwork. The Jade Emperor, the supreme ruler of heaven, a being of immense wisdom and cosmic authority, preferred diplomacy, even if it was a thinly veiled attempt to manage a burgeoning problem. He extended an invitation to Wukong, offering him a prestigious position in the celestial hierarchy, keeper of the heavenly stables. The idea, of course, was to keep the troublesome monkey busy, to give him a title that sounded important but was, in reality, a glorified stable boy. Wukong, initially flattered by the invitation to heaven, accepted. He ascended to the celestial realm, his ego already expanding to cosmic proportions. But it didn't take long for the truth to dawn on him. The stable boy job was an insult, a blatant attempt to diminish his burgeoning power and status. His bronze eyes narrowed, his fur bristled with indignation. "Stable boy?" he roared, his voice echoing through the celestial halls. "I am the handsome Monkey King, the great sage of Flower Fruit Mountain." Insulted beyond measure, he quit the same day, abandoning his post with a defiant shout that reverberated across the cosmos. Equal to heaven or bust. This wasn't just a resignation. It was a declaration of war. He returned to Flower Fruit Mountain, his fury a tangible force, and officially declared himself the great sage equal to heaven. Not just a king, not just a sage, but equal to heaven itself. He then rallied an army of demon kings, spirits, and formidable beasts from across the mortal realms, promising them a share in his glorious rebellion. And with a roar that shook the very foundations of the earth, he marched, not just on a kingdom, but on the celestial city itself. Battles erupted, lighting the sky with flashes of divine magic and demonic fury. Heaven, initially complacent, was utterly unprepared for Wukong's ferocity and cunning. Celestial generals, the beings of immense power and ancient lineage, were sent forth to quell the uprising. General Neja, the formidable child deity with his flaming wheels and cosmic armillary sash, a warrior who had vanquished countless demons, faced Wukong. The clash was spectacular, but Wukong, with his 72 transformations and his Ruyi Jingu Bang, was too agile, too unpredictable. Neja was decisively beaten, his flaming wheels extinguished, his pride wounded. Then came Erlang Shen, the three-eyed tracker, a nephew of the Jade Emperor himself, considered one of heaven's most powerful warriors. Erlang Shen possessed a third eye that could see through illusions, and he was a master of transformation. This was a true test for Wukong. They engaged in an epic shape-shifting duel, transforming into various animals, birds, and even inanimate objects. At one point, Wukong, in a moment of pure genius and audacious humor, morphed into a temple, complete with a main hall and 2 side doors. But he couldn't resist a final flourish of mischief. He stuck his own tail out as the temple's flagpole. Lang Shen, with his all-seeing eye, spotted the anomaly. The Wukong was already on the move, transforming again, always 1 step ahead. Though Lang Shen eventually cornered him, Wukong's sheer resourcefulness and refusal to be defeated left the celestial forces reeling. The war lasted for weeks, a chaotic maelstrom that threatened the very stability of the cosmos. Heaven's armies, despite their vast numbers and individual power, simply couldn't contain Wukong's boundless energy and unpredictable tactics. He was a whirlwind of destruction, a golden blur wielding an infinitely adaptable staff. The Jade Emperor, growing increasingly desperate, convened a council of the highest deities. It was the compassionate Bodhisattva Guanyin, observing the chaos from her serene lotus throne, who suggested a softer, more cunning tactic. Why not give the monkey a meaningless heavenly title again? She proposed. But this time, offer him something he might actually enjoy? Perhaps a peach orchard to manage? The idea was to soothe his ego, to give him a sense of importance without any real power. Wukong, still basking in the glow of his victories, accepted the offer. He was now the keeper of the immortal peach garden, a seemingly prestigious role. But these weren't just any peaches. These were cosmic fruits, ripened over millennia, each bite granting immense power and longevity. The truly potent ones, the ones that conferred true immortality, ripened only once every 3,000 years. Wukong, ever the glutton for power and pleasure, couldn't resist. He ate half the orchard, gorging himself on these divine fruits, his power doubling, tripling, growing exponentially with each succulent bite. When the celestial gardeners discovered the devastation, Wukong was scolded, but he simply bolted. His hunger for power wasn't sated. He then stumbled upon Laozi's laboratory, where the venerable Taoist sage brewed his legendary elixir pills, pills that conferred immortality and immense spiritual energy. Wukong, seeing them as a perfect dessert to his peach feast, gulped down an entire gourd of these precious elixirs. With his power now truly off the charts, he disappeared back to his mountain, leaving heaven in an absolute uproar. This was the final straw. The Jade Emperor, his patience utterly exhausted, mobilized 100,000 celestial soldiers, a truly colossal army, led by the most formidable generals in heaven. They surrounded Flower Fruit Mountain, ready to crush the rebellious monkey once and for all. But Wukong, with a mischievous grin, simply pulled a handful of hairs from his chest, blew on them, and watched as they transformed into thousands upon thousands of identical monkey kings, each wielding a golden staff, each as fierce and powerful as the original. The ensuing battle was a spectacle of unparalleled chaos. Even against such overwhelming odds, Wukong and his clones fought with such ferocity and cunning that they still won, routing heaven's elite forces. At that point, the Jade Emperor, utterly defeated and out of options, let out a weary sigh. "We need bigger help," he conceded, his voice heavy with resignation. This monkey was truly beyond their control. With heaven's armies defeated and the celestial hierarchy in utter disarray, the situation had reached a critical impasse. Who could possibly contain this audacious, immensely powerful, and utterly unmanageable monkey? This was a problem that transcended mere military might. It required cosmic wisdom. And so, the call went out, not to another general or deity, but to the most enlightened being in the universe, Gautama Buddha. Enter Gautama Buddha, meditating somewhere far, far to the west of the Milky Way, in his serene western paradise. He heard the distress call from the Jade Emperor, sensed the immense spiritual imbalance Wukong had caused, and decided to intervene personally. The Buddha, radiating an aura of calm power, appeared before Wukong, not with an army, but with a gentle, knowing smile. "So, monkey," the Buddha said, his voice resonating with cosmic peace, yet holding an undeniable authority, "I hear you claim to be the great sage equal to heaven. You're quite powerful, aren't you? Show me then, just how fast you truly are." Wukong, still brimming with untamed arrogance, saw this as another challenge, another opportunity to flaunt his unparalleled abilities. He scoffed internally. Asterisk fast? One can somersault 36,000 miles in a single leap. This old man has no idea what he's dealing with. With a confident grin, he agreed to the wager. The Buddha simply extended his hand, palm open, and said, "Leap then. If you can leap out of my palm, you may claim heaven. If not, you will face the consequences." Wukong, believing this to be the easiest challenge yet, didn't hesitate. He launched himself into the air, executing his legendary 36,000-mile cloud somersault, a blur of golden light streaking across the cosmos. He flew for what felt like an eternity, past stars and nebulae, convinced he had traversed unimaginable distances. Finally, he landed on what appeared to be 5 colossal pink pillars, towering majestically into the void. This, he thought, must be the very edge of the universe, the boundary of existence itself. To mark his triumph, and with his characteristic blend of power and puerile humor, Wukong scribbled, "Great Sage was here, on the middle pillar." Then, just for extra style points, he audaciously peed on it, a final defiant gesture of conquest. Satisfied with his declaration, he somersaulted back, returning to where the Buddha patiently waited. "Well, old man," Wukong declared, puffing out his chest, "I've been to the edge of the universe and back. I even left my mark." The Buddha merely chuckled, a sound like rustling leaves in a gentle breeze. He then slowly, deliberately, opened his hand. And there, right on his middle finger, were the words, "Great Sage was here," still wet with Wukong's fresh graffiti. The 5 pink pillars Wukong had landed on, the very edge of the universe, had been nothing more than the Buddha's own fingers. Wukong, in all his boundless speed and power, had never, for a single moment, left the Buddha's palm. The realization hit Wukong like a celestial hammer. His arrogance, his pride, his very sense of invincibility shattered in an instant. He tried to escape, to somersault away, but it was too late. Before Wukong could even twitch, the Buddha, with a serene expression, flipped his hand, turning his fingers into the colossal 5 Elements mountain. With one deafening boom that echoed across the celestial realms, the great sage was pinned. Head poking out, arms trapped, his mighty Ruyi Jingu Bang rendered useless. He could only taste dirt and the bitter, searing regret of his monumental hubris. Heavenly clerks, who had watched the entire spectacle unfold, erupted in joyous celebration. The universe, finally, was safe from the Monkey King's boundless mischief. The mountain, infused with powerful talismans and divine seals, stood as an unyielding prison. For 500 long, agonizing years, Wukong remained trapped beneath that unyielding peak. Seasons swapped their coats above him. Dynasties rose and fell in the mortal world. But the monkey cooled his temper, his wild spirit slowly, painfully, being tempered by the crushing weight of his own folly. It was the ultimate gamble, and Wukong had lost everything. 500 years. Can you even begin to comprehend such a span of time? For Sun Wukong, it was an eternity of forced contemplation, a living tomb under the colossal weight of the 5 Elements mountain. The vibrant, boisterous, rebellious spirit that had once dared to challenge heaven itself was now confined, immobilized, left with nothing but his thoughts and the bitter taste of dirt and regret. Rain lashed down, sun beat upon him, snow covered him, and through it all, he remained, a prisoner of his own colossal ego, the mighty Ruyi Jingu Bang lying uselessly beside him. He watched the world change around him, powerless, his fiery temper slowly, painfully, cooling into a simmering frustration. During those 5 centuries, while the Monkey King endured his penance, a new destiny was unfolding in the human realm. A devout and compassionate Buddhist monk named Tang Sanzang was born, grew into a man of profound faith, and accepted a monumental mission. This mission wasn't just from a king or an emperor. It was from the benevolent Bodhisattva Guanyin herself, the goddess of mercy. His task, to embark on an arduous journey west across treacherous lands to India, the birthplace of Buddhism, to retrieve sacred Buddhist scriptures, the sutras, and bring them back to Tang China. His ultimate goal was to convert the vast, diverse land of China toward compassion, enlightenment, and the path of peace. But such a perilous journey, filled with demons, spirits, and unimaginable hardships, could not be undertaken alone. The monk, for all his spiritual strength, was physically vulnerable. Guanyin, with her infinite wisdom, knew exactly who Tang Sanzang would need for bodyguards. Sinners seeking redemption, powerful beings whose immense strength could be channeled for good. And so, Guanyin, in her boundless compassion, visited the trapped monkey. She appeared before the 5 Elements Mountain, her serene presence a stark contrast to Wukong's wretched state. She offered him a carrot, a path to freedom, a chance at redemption. "Serve the monk Tang Sanzang," she proposed, her voice gentle yet firm. "Protect him on his journey, and you will earn your freedom, and perhaps even enlightenment." But she also laid out the alternative, the stick. "Refuse, and you will remain buried here, under this mountain, until the very end of time." Wukong, ever the trickster, even in his miserable state, couldn't resist a sardonic retort. "Pick the lock, lady," he scoffed, his voice hoarse from disuse, still clinging to a sliver of defiance. He was a prisoner, yes, but he wouldn't be easily coerced. Guanyin, however, was prepared. With a subtle gesture, she pressed a golden headband onto his skull, a seemingly innocuous band of metal. It wasn't a weapon, but a tool for discipline. When Tang Sanzang finally arrived at the 5 Elements Mountain, guided by Guanyin's divine hand, he found the legendary Monkey King, head protruding from the rock, a fearsome yet pathetic sight. The monk, filled with compassion, recited a special incantation, a tightening spell given to him by Guanyin. And as the words left his lips, the golden headband on Wukong's head began to constrict, squeezing with an excruciating pressure, like 1,000 migraines compressed into one unbearable pain. Wukong howled, thrashed, but he was powerless. The message was clear, immediate, and utterly agonizing. Disobedience hurts. This wasn't just physical pain. It was a profound lesson in humility and submission, a constant reminder that his wild, untamed spirit now had a master. Defeated, humbled, and in immense pain, Wukong bowed his head, pledging his loyalty to the monk. The mountain, sensing his genuine submission, cracked open with a thunderous roar. Freedom. After 5 centuries of crushing confinement, Wukong emerged, blinking in the sunlight. The air smelled of pine and damp earth, a scent of liberation, but also of profound uncertainty. His old life of rebellion was over. A new, unknown path lay before him, a path of service, discipline, and perhaps true purpose. So, picture this: a squeamish, gentle monk in flowing silk robes, Tang Sanzang, embarking on what would become the most legendary journey in Chinese mythology. But he's not alone. Right behind him, bristling with barely contained energy, is a newly reformed demon, Sun Wukong, the Monkey King, who still sparks with untamed electricity when annoyed. This odd couple, a study in contrasts, was just the beginning of their pilgrimage squad. Their first stop, after Wukong's dramatic release, led them to a turbulent river, a place where another powerful yet flawed being awaited his own chance at redemption. This was Zhu Beiji, the pig spirit, a former marshal of the heavenly canopies who had been banished for his gluttony and lust. He was a creature of immense strength, but also immense appetite and laziness, often found oinking for dumplings or complaining about the hardships of the road. Wukong, ever the pragmatist, wasn't interested in lengthy negotiations. He strong-armed Zhu Baji into joining the pilgrimage, using a combination of threats and promises of eventual enlightenment. Baji, though grumbling incessantly, understood the opportunity for atonement. Next, they encountered Sha Wujing, the river ogre, a far more stoic and dependable character. He too was a fallen celestial general, banished to the river for a minor transgression, transforming into a fearsome blue-skinned monster. Wukong, with his sharp intuition, recognized Sha Wujing's underlying loyalty and power. With less drama than Baji's recruitment, Sha Wujing became the third disciple, often the quiet mediator between the impulsive Wukong and the gluttonous Baji. He was the anchor, the steady presence in their often chaotic group. And let's not forget the fourth and often overlooked member of the team, the Dragon Prince. He was the third son of the Dragon King of the West Sea, banished and transformed into a white horse as punishment for burning down his father's pearl. This noble steed wasn't just transportation. He was a silent, powerful presence, often overlooked, but absolutely essential, carrying Tang Sanzang faithfully through every trial. And just like that, the full pilgrimage squad was assembled. A compassionate monk, a rebellious monkey, a gluttonous pig, a steadfast river ogre, and a transformed dragon. Each mile of their journey to the west, towards the sacred scriptures in India, tested Wukong's patience to its absolute limits. He was, by nature, a creature of immediate action, a problem solver who preferred to vaporize demons with a single swing of his staff. But scriptures, he quickly learned, required virtue, not just brute force. Tang Sanzang, with his unwavering Buddhist principles, insisted on sparing even the most vile, man-eating spirits, believing in the potential for redemption in all beings. This clash of philosophies was a constant source of friction. Wukong would see a demon, recognize its evil intent with his fiery eyes, and prepare to strike, only for Tang San to intervene, often chastising him for his impulsiveness and lack of compassion. Every time the monkey raised his staff to deliver a fatal blow, every time he questioned the monk's seemingly naive mercy, the golden headband on his skull would tighten, sending searing pain through his head. It was a constant, excruciating reminder of his vow, a physical manifestation of his binding to a higher purpose. Slowly, agonizingly, Wukong began to learn restraint. He learned to bite his tongue, to analyze situations, to consider the monk's perspective, even if he didn't always agree. Empathy, a foreign concept to someone who had once declared war on heaven purely out of ego, began to stir within him. He started to see the nuances, the potential for change, even in the most monstrous of creatures. It wasn't an easy transformation. His fiery temper flared often, leading to arguments and temporary banishments from the group. But each time he returned, a little wiser, a little more patient, his wild spirit slowly being channeled, refined, and directed toward a purpose far greater than himself. This journey wasn't just about retrieving scriptures. It was about transforming a rebellious monkey into a true protector, a genuine seeker of enlightenment. The journey to the west wasn't a straight path. It was a winding, treacherous road dotted with 81 recorded disasters, each designed to test the pilgrim's faith, resolve, and most crucially, Wukong's evolving character. Let's zoom in on two highlight reels, two pivotal encounters that truly showcase his transformation from reckless rebel to a nuanced, if still fiery, protector. First, consider the bewitching spider women of Silk Cave. There were 7 of them, beautiful but deadly, masters of illusion and deception. They spun webs, not of silk, but of powerful magic, strong enough to ensnare even gods. Their tactic was insidious. They lured the monk Tang Sanzang with an offer of hospitality, a fragrant tea and eloquent poetry, feigning innocence and piety. The gullible monk, ever trusting, fell right into their trap, and soon found himself cocooned, suspended from the ceiling, destined to be dinner. Wukong, however, was never fooled by appearances. His fiery, all-seeing eyes could pierce through any illusion. He infiltrated their lair, not with a grand entrance, but as a tiny fly, buzzing unseen, observing their sinister plan. He discovered the monk's predicament and the spider sisters' true monstrous forms. Now, the old Wukong would have simply smashed the entire cave, obliterated every single spider in a blaze of righteous fury. But this Wukong, tempered by the headband and the monk's teachings, hesitated. Instead of outright destruction, he plucked a single hair from his chest, whispered an incantation, and transformed it into a small flame. He used this flame to carefully burn only the magical webs, freeing the monk, but crucially, giving the spider demons a chance to flee, a chance at redemption. Did they take it? No, of course not. They were demons after all, and they renewed their attack. Wukong, with a sigh of exasperation, still had to finish them off. But that moment of hesitation, that conscious choice to offer a path to escape, revealed a profound growth. It showed he was learning that brute force wasn't always the first or only answer. He was integrating compassion, even for his enemies, into his fighting style, a truly remarkable shift for the former rebel. Then came the White Bone Demon, one of the most cunning and persistent adversaries of their journey, and a major test of Wukong's loyalty and the monk's faith. This demon was a master shapeshifter, preying on Tang Sanzang's compassion. She appeared first as an innocent young girl lost and vulnerable, then after. Wukong saw through her disguise and struck her down, only for her spirit to escape. She reappeared as a weeping old grandma searching for her lost granddaughter. Again, Wukong's fiery eyes pierced the illusion, and again, he struck. Finally, she manifested as a grieving old grandpa, distraught over the loss of his wife and child. Each time, Tang Sanzang saw only victims, innocent mortals suffering. Each time, he chastised Wukong for his perceived cruelty, for killing innocent people. Wukong, however, saw through the illusions. He knew with absolute certainty that he was fighting the same demon, not harming innocent lives. His wisdom, born of his celestial training and innate perception, allowed him to see the truth behind the deception. But the monk, blinded by his own strict moral code and inability to perceive the demonic, was horrified. After Wukong killed the grandpa, Tang Sanzang, utterly distraught and convinced Wukong was a heartless killer, banished him from the pilgrimage. "Go," he commanded, his voice trembling with anger and disappointment. "I no longer want you as my disciple." Wukong, heartbroken but defiant, somersaulted away, returning to Flower Fruit Mountain, feeling utterly betrayed. He had protected his master, saved his life, and been punished for it. But his loyalty, though tested, ran deeper than his pride. Later, when the White Bone Demon, finally unopposed, reappeared and nearly ate the monk alive, Wukong returned, summoned by the desperate pleas of Zhu Baji. He didn't gloat. He didn't say, "I told you so." Instead, he apologized for his own arrogance, for not being able to make the monk understand. And then, with a renewed ferocity, he finally vanquished the White Bone Demon for good. It was a powerful lesson for both of them. Wisdom sometimes looks cruel until context arrives, and true loyalty endures even unjust banishment. This incident cemented Wukong's role as the indispensable, if sometimes exasperating, heart of the pilgrimage. Indeed, the journey was replete with such challenges. There was the mischievous Red Boy, the son of the Bull Demon King, who trapped Tang Sanzang in a fiery cage. And Wukong, even with his fire-averse nature, had to seek divine help to defeat him. There was the formidable Princess Iron Fan, whose magical fan could create devastating gales, and Wukong had to outwit her repeatedly, even shrinking himself to enter her stomach to retrieve the fan needed to douse the flaming mountains. Each encounter honed his skills, tested his patience, and deepened his understanding of both his own powers and the complex nature of good and evil. He learned to strategize, to seek allies, and to rely on his companions rather than just his own formidable strength. He was no longer just a great sage equal to heaven. He was becoming the true protector, the unwavering guardian of the sacred journey. After 81 recorded disasters, countless battles, endless arguments, and immeasurable miles, they finally reached their destination. The pilgrims, weary but triumphant, arrived in India, the sacred land of Buddhist teachings. They met with the living Buddha, Sakyamuni, and were bestowed with the precious Buddhist scriptures, the sutras, the very essence of enlightenment. Loading the scrolls onto the faithful white horse, their journey, which had started with an audacious monkey's quest for immortality, now turned eastward, back towards their homeland. The return journey to Chang'an, the imperial capital of Tang China, was a victory parade. They presented the sutras to the emperor, a moment of profound spiritual and cultural significance. Heaven, which had once been the target of Wukong's rebellion, now applauded. The celestial realms rejoiced, recognizing the monumental achievement of the pilgrimage. And then, in a moment of sublime culmination, the benevolent Bodhisattva Guanyin herself appeared. Her presence radiated grace and cosmic authority. She removed the golden headband from Wukong's skull, the symbol of his penance and his forced obedience. The pain, the constant reminder of his past transgressions, vanished. He was truly free, not just from the mountain, but from the spiritual shackles of his own ego. Guanyin then proceeded to promote each pilgrim, bestowing upon them titles that reflected their arduous journey and their spiritual growth. Tang Sanzang, the steadfast monk, became the Buddha of sandalwood merit, recognized for his unwavering faith and compassion. Zhu Baji, the gluttonous but ultimately loyal pig, was appointed altar cleanser, a role that, fittingly, involved consuming offerings. Sha Wujing, the quiet and dependable river ogre, became the Golden Art, a revered protector of Buddhist law. The white dragon horse, who had carried the monk so faithfully, was restored to his dragon form, ascending to a celestial position. And Sun Wukong, the monkey who had once been a rock, a rebel, a prisoner, and then a protector, received the highest honor. He was elevated to the status of victorious fighting Buddha. This wasn't just a title. It was an embodiment of his entire arc. It meant he was the ultimate warrior, yes, but a warrior who now fought only for inner peace, for enlightenment, for the good of all beings. His battles were no longer against celestial armies or for personal glory, but against ignorance, ego, and suffering. He laughed then, a genuine unburdened laugh, and scratched his head, a familiar gesture. For the very first time, he felt the cosmos no longer owed him anything. His restless spirit, his insatiable hunger for power, had finally found its true satisfaction, not in dominance, but in purpose. The monkey who once wanted to replace the Jade Emperor, who believed true authority lay in a celestial throne, finally realized the chair was empty. He understood that true authority was never about external power. It was always a mirror, reflecting the self, and that genuine power came from within, from self-mastery and compassion. His journey from rebellion to redemption was complete. Seriously, if you're still here, you've not only survived 5 centuries of cosmic drama in under 15 minutes, but you've also just witnessed one of the greatest character transformations in all of literature. That's pretty epic, wouldn't you say? So, if you love this deep dive into ancient mythology, do me a huge favor. Smash that like button so YouTube knows that stories like this, stories that delve into profound human and monkey experiences, truly matter. And while you're at it, hit subscribe and ring that notification bell. We've got so many more tales waiting to be told. Stories that turn dusty old books into late-night binge fuel. Don't miss out. Sun Wukong isn't just a character from an old book. He's a cultural phenomenon, a living legend that continues to resonate across the globe, transcending time and medium. Today, you'll find his mischievous grin and formidable staff in countless forms. He's the unmistakable inspiration for Goku, the beloved protagonist of Dragon Ball, whose cloud-riding, staff-wielding, super-strong antics are direct nods to the Monkey King. He's the hero of the highly anticipated video game, Black Myth, Wukong, dazzling players with stunning visuals and intricate combat. You'll see his vibrant performances on stage in Beijing Opera, his acrobatics and theatricality bringing ancient tales to life. He's even ventured into orbit. China's lunar rover, U2, carries a tiny plaque depicting his iconic staff, a symbolic nod to exploration and boundless possibility. His arc, from rebellious trickster to enlightened redeemer, keeps resonating because, at its core, it's a deeply human story. It's a narrative we can all find ourselves in, perhaps not literally, but metaphorically. We all start naive, perhaps a little too full of ourselves, eager to test boundaries. We gain power, be it personal, professional, or even just the power of knowledge. And sometimes, inevitably, we misuse it. We make mistakes, we stumble, we fall. But then, if we're lucky, if we're open to the lessons, we learn. We grow. We aim our energy, our passions, our formidable monkey mind towards something bigger than ourselves. Something that benefits not just us, but the wider world. So, the next time life pins you under your own metaphorical 5 elements mountain, that crushing weight of failure, regret, or consequence, remember Sun Wukong. Remember that the very same trickster energy, the same boundless drive and audacious spirit that might have caused the mess in the first place, can also be harnessed to dig you out. It's a journey, not a sprint. It's about taking one humble step at a time, learning from your missteps, and channeling your inner strength towards a more noble purpose. Thanks for watching, for listening, for joining me on this incredible adventure. Drop a comment below telling me which part of the Monkey King's epic journey shocked you most, or perhaps resonated deepest with your own experiences. And please, share this with one friend who still thinks Goku invented the power pole. Until the next story, keep your cloud hops kind, your curiosity boundless, and your ego just a little bit small.